We have 1 million people in the sky at this moment in time, and as Angela said earlier in one of the presentations, and we're going to have 11 billion people in the air by 2029, but by 2016 we're going to have 7 billion people making trips annually, and that's going to be greater than the population of the people on Earth. So more and more people are taking to the skies. And design is an opportunity to connect to the place. You know, we're not just, we should not just be designing hangars or decorating hangars for people to travel through in our airports. We should connect those terminals to the place, and that's something that we have spent a lot of time and concentrated on in our design efforts, because we think that every place in the world has a story. And that story can be connected to the design of the airport terminal in a way that it enhances the passenger experience and is memorable and interesting, and something that people can remember and take with them. So starting with these sketches, which are kind of quick sketches, thumbnail sketches, or ideas that we come up with as our airport designers, we then transfer these into buildings, steel and glass and bricks and mortar. So I'm going to just take you a little bit through that. My first airport, real airport, was the Denver International Airport. And I say that my first real airport because 40 years ago, about now, I was graduating from architecture school. And I was finishing up my thesis, which was on airports. And the one thing that I thought I learned doing this thesis, spending an entire year working on airport design, was that there were not going to be any airports built during my career. And I guess I was wrong. 20 years later, I found myself involved in the design here of the Denver airport. So about 20 years ago, we came up with this design, and our inspiration for this design was the mountains. But a lot of people don't see the mountains. What they see is maybe teepees. Other people say lots of different things. I've even heard one person say that they thought the design looked like meringue, you know, like whipped cream on top of a pie. But I think the important thing is that it's memorable. And that memory is something people take from this place. And this has become one of the most recognizable buildings in the United States that's been built in the last couple of decades. And so it's an icon in the daytime. It's also an icon in the evening. So it's a memorable design, a memorable form that has transcended Denver and is known around the world. It's also a space inside the building that's iconic, with shopping, retail, restaurants. The building is filled with daylight. So we've tried in this building to capture something that's unique about this place. Many of you have come here and maybe you've noticed that climbing a couple flights of stairs is kind of hard. Or maybe you've noticed how dry your throat is. We're at a very high altitude here, mile-high city. And because of that, we have some thin air. And the daylight is extremely different here than it is at sea level. So we get a lot of intense sunlight, and we've allowed it to come into the building in a manner that in the daytime we really don't have to have the lights on inside of the great hall space of the building, because the daylighting comes in through the roof. Our second airport was in Incheon, South Korea, and I know at these Airport Cities conferences you've heard a lot about Incheon, and Incheon as an airport city. When we started some 15 years ago working on the design of this, there was a big mud flat where Incheon is today. And we had to come up with an idea of what this building would be. And that idea has branded this airport, I think, into the long-term future. We studied the culture, the history of Korea. And one of the things that was very distinctive about the culture and the history was the catenary curve that was used on every traditional Korean home. And we incorporated that along with many other ideas into the building in steel and glass. in a way that is emblematic of Korea's today global economy and the Korea of today producing steel and products that are known around the world. Inside the building is a very large, massive space, but inside we created a Korean garden, something of tradition and something of this place. While letting daylight stream in, we were able to have the flora of the local area inside the building with this traditional garden. Songdo City, a city that sprung up since that airport opened. You can see across the waterway the airport there beyond the bridge, as well as the city that has sprung up around the airport and continues to grow. Now, a little different way of branding an airport is this one. This is Seattle SeaTac, Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. An airport that didn't have a lot of distinction, didn't really have a heart. So we were brought in to give this building a heart and to create something special about the airport. And through this opportunity to put a heart in this airport, we said, what is Seattle? What is the Great Northwest? And we began to explore Seattle and found that it has a culture too, not as old as Korea, perhaps, but still very important to people who live in Seattle and Tacoma. All throughout Seattle and Tacoma are little marketplaces. The one that you know, you've seen it in the movies, is Pike's Market. Here, this is the place where miraculously they throw a fish across and someone always catches it as they're bringing the catch of the day in and selling it here in the market. So we took that idea and researched it and branded it, came up with the idea of Pacific Marketplace. Pacific Marketplace is a great place for the passenger, and it put a heart into the airport, creating a 300-foot-long glass wall, which brought back some of the excitement of travel, letting people look out into the airfield, letting the passengers see the flights take off, and offering 500 seats so they could sit and sip coffee. For those of you that are not from the U.S., most of us Americans think coffee is manufactured and invented in Seattle. So you can have coffee here, you can have Washington State wines, salmon, and enjoy the last bits of Seattle before you take off to return home. Another airport with a different kind of branding is San Jose. This is our Silicon high-tech capital in the United States, and we looked long and hard for inspiration for the design of the airport here, picking the idea of relating to a frayed computer cable, unwinding it for the inspiration for the design, creating, again, retail inside the building that relates to the place, wines from the community. And they've increased, in Seattle, they increased the retail after we completed the design, more than 25% in terms of return for passengers going through. And here in San Jose, the increase in non-airline revenue has been around 60% for passengers. So it goes to prove the points that were made earlier. If you give people great opportunities, they will spend money as they pass through your building. Another way of branding this building, and another need we had with the Conrack facility, Consolidated Rental Car Facility, which you see here, is a massive image of art program here. So this is a several 100-foot long expression of art, people from the San Jose area waving goodbye or saying hello as you arrive at the San Jose airport. Switching coast in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, another high-tech area at the Research Triangle in Raleigh-Durham. We looked for a different inspiration to brand this building. This is the rolling hills of the Piedmont. It's an area where hardwoods are manufactured, furniture has been manufactured for decades. Also crafts, such as musical instruments and the manufacturing of cloth, weaving. So there's kind of a handmade, mind-made theme to that area of the world. The research triangle there is between Duke, North Carolina State, and the University of North Carolina. It's a very busy research center. And so you can see inside the airport the use of woods, making this a warm, friendly place, and at the same time using some of the techniques from the fiddle to support the structure and get massive spans that give us a very clear, open place for all the activities that we need to have happen in the terminal, but at the same time give it a bit of a traditional feel. A current project that we have been working on, which I think will be very iconic when it's finished, is in LAX. It's the modernization program underway at Bradley West. You can see some of the inspirations on the left side there, the waves coming in on the beach, which gave light to the roof forms of the building. Now, LAX is often mentioned in airport surveys as the worst passenger experience in America. And Jean Marie and her team are hard at work to completely turn that around. And I think this major terminal will be opening next year this time. We'll give you an idea of here, kind of a sneak preview of some of the things you may see in the future. A grand hall for shopping, and an area, I know it's been mentioned several times in these kind of podiums, from these kind of podiums, about how much value flows into LA from the airport. Over 80% of all the value coming in through the ports come in through the airport. Now we're going to run just a quick animation that will give you an idea of the future. So every terminal will be renovated, as well as the new international piece here, which will have 15 new gates for long-haul aircraft, 9 gates for A380 double-decker Airbuses along here. The building will be able to handle 4,000 passengers an hour as they depart and 4,000 passengers an hour as they arrive, but with a big concentration on giving every passenger a great experience, as well as making it very easy for them to flow through the building, a very fluid arrival and departure. So we've increased the security checkpoints to allow you to get quickly into the shopping area, where there'll be lots of animated signage with artwork, advertisements, of course, movie trailers, opportunities to buy a nice $6,000 handbag, duty-free, of course, and to make your way to the gates. And then the arriving passengers will have bountiful areas to walk through as they go to the new security checkpoints and immigration, with 80 new checkpoints at immigration and a new baggage claim system that should get you to the curbside in record time. What's the future? Future of iconic gateways. We've done a little bit of research, and we've done a little bit of fun things. We did a competition for students, airport students, around the world. We had over 922 participate in the competition from 77 different countries. And one thing I'll tell you about the future, there's no end to the imagination of the young people that are coming along. They came up with some really incredible ideas, and we'll share 2 or 3 of those with you. Here's the first place winner of the Airport Ideas Competition, an airport in the Thames River in London. Another winner was an idea of algae that will sustain the energy operation for the airport in LA, and another which is to recycle buildings. Of course, this competition was staged 50 years to 150 years from now. And we did our own think tank, bringing in airplane designers, aeronautical engineers, air traffic controllers, people who operate airports, and asked them what they thought was going to happen in the future. And together, we've come up with a few things I'll share quickly. You see the airport surrounded by the city. I think in the future, instead of going farther out and farther out, as we did here in Denver and build an airport, you're going to see us allow and accept the city to grow up around the airport and embrace the airport. And I think that speaks well to the airport cities discussions that we have each year. We also think there's going to be some massive changes in the next 50 years with airlines and aircraft design. So instead of turning a plane 30 minutes domestically or 4 hours internationally or 2 hours, I think the planes are going to come in and make pit stops, and the entire fuselage will change. So the baggage and the people and the fuel will be loaded, and the plane will only come in for about 5 minutes and take off again. We're going to see a big increase, as we're already seeing, I think, the beginnings of that with some of the presentations here of museums and cultural facilities in airports, theaters, and lots of activities that are enthralling to people. We're going to continue to see technology change and change in ways that we couldn't have thought of, with different kinds of propulsion. And perhaps we will see high-rise airports that are quieter ways for people to fly and land in a high-rise airport that might be attached to a future city. So we think branding is extremely important in terms of how you think about the airport in the future, and we think every place has a story to be told. Thank you.